Hello and welcome to the Ann Phelim Scoop. I'm Phelim 𝙃𝙤𝙣, and as you might have noticed that the Ann Phelim Scoop is missing a crucial component of the Ann Phelim Scoop, as in the Ann part of the Ann Phelim Scoop. Ann, as you know, injured her shoulder, broke her clavicle, going to a court case in Santa Monica that we were covering, and she is currently injured. She had her operation. She had to have an operation, and the recovery is progressing slowly, a bit slower than I would like, but she's just not able to be on the show today. So she sends her greetings to you, and she really appreciates all the messages that you're sending her through YouTube and through the podcast app and all that. And please keep them going. We read them all. She reads them all, and send her your best wishes, because I think she needs them. It's not easy, and it's been a bit of an injury. So we'll talk more about that later on in the show. But what else is on the show? Take that, millennials, Generation Z, Generation X, Star Trek, The Next Generation, all you people out there, all you young people out there. Ann McElhinney has become a TikTok star. Yes, we'll talk about that. And in an exclusive interview, I talk at length to Larry Elder, talk show host, author, and recent candidate for California governor, and according to the LA Times, the black face of white supremacy. And we, God bless her, AOC, she's just different, really. She's just a wonderful human being, immune to everything, immune to COVID and immune to all the rules that she puts in for everyone else. So she's just wonderful. 18 months late. Yep, 18 months late. After the Lancet magazine, we're going to be looking at this. The Lancet magazine, after 18 months after smearing anyone who suggested that the Chinese coronavirus may have come from a lab in Wuhan, they finally admitted, actually, maybe we should have been more open to other suggestions, because, yes, of course. It was always ridiculous. Anyway, we'll talk about that. It was always ridiculous that it was a bat that bit a penguin that had sex with a dog, or whatever way they were claiming the Wuhan flu came to us was always stretched credulity. But now they're actually saying, yeah, we should have been open to more to more thoughts on that. So we'll look at that. And from ever grand to ever awful, 18 months after they give us Chinese flu, now they're going to give us a systemic financial breakdown. Watch this space for that. And like you, we've been obsessed with the van life saga, its twists and turns, the missing woman, and now the missing man, and unfortunately the woman has turned up dead. We discuss, what it says about today's America, this van life murder, if it says anything. We'll be bringing you up to date on that. And we have the perfect solution. If you're having 6 people for dinner the day after you have excruciating shoulder surgery, and then we later on ask why the hell we were having people over for dinner the day after excruciating shoulder surgery. And I think that also explains why Ann is not fit to come here today. I have been trying to inquire about, this has really damaged our business. It's damaged Ann's life. It's damaged her shoulder. And we are in America after all, and people are saying we should take a lawsuit. I'm not particularly fond of taking lawsuits. I'm not particularly fond of personal injury lawyers, but this has really damaged us going forward. So I decided, I think we will take a lawsuit. And I've been in touch with some personal injury lawyers, and basically they say, it's the city of Santa Monica. They're going to throw unlimited resources at you. We are going to fight them for 2 or 3 years. And at the end, we'll get some paltry sum like 30 or 50,000, and it wouldn't be worth our while. And so we're not going to take it. And I'm going, well, yeah, but like, you're lawyers. You're supposed to help people who need your help. Yeah, well, we're not helping you. So, and then I had to go and have a shower because I was talking at length to personal injury lawyers. So I have decided that I am going to represent Ann in the lawsuit against the city of Santa Monica. And I've decided also I've got to crowdsource the lawsuit. So I need people out there to help me in all the stages of a lawsuit against the city of Santa Monica. The lawyers told me not to do it, that they would throw every resource they have at me and grind me down. I need your help to not be ground down, to get justice for Ann McElhinney, to shout j'accuse, to stand athwart and shout stop. So I have already started the beginnings of the lawsuit by I decided that I would phone the courthouse and ask them to preserve all video of the aforementioned, and I didn't. To my eternal regret, I didn't use the word aforementioned, because when you use the word aforementioned, people think you're really intelligent and lawyerly like. So I said, I phoned and I got a guy, I said to the guy, "Hi, my wife was injured in an incident there." And the reason I want to actually preserve the video is because they're going to say, "Oh, she was on her phone texting, or she was on her phone talking, or whatever. She was wearing a mask. She probably couldn't see." None of those. It was perfectly sighted. She was not on the phone. She was merely walking up to the courthouse, and they had a pavement that was just plain awfully badly balanced, and she tripped on it. So I want to preserve those videos. I also want to make sure that they don't change the paving to make it less dangerous. So I phoned and got through to a gentleman, and I said, "I want to you to preserve the videos." And he goes, "Well, you'll have to, you'll have to write it. You'll have to speak to my supervisor. I don't handle that." And I says, "Okay, I'll speak to your supervisor." So I spoke to his supervisor, and she said, "Yes, okay. Well, what you need to do now is write a letter to the administrator here at Santa Monica Courthouse asking for a preservation order for all this." And I said, "Okay, what's your email address?" "I don't give out my email address." I said, "What's your name?" "I don't give out my name." I'm going, "Okay." So I spoke to a supervisor, and she says, "You write a letter." And I said, "What's your email address?" She says, "Oh, we don't communicate by email." And I'm going, "You don't communicate by email? Well, how am I going to write you a letter?" She says, "You have to write a letter and post it or deliver it to the courthouse." I says, "Write a letter." I says, "Does it have to be written with a quill and pen and delivered by horse and cart?" So the conversation deteriorated a lot after that, and she ended up hanging up on me, which wasn't a great start to my lawsuit. But anyway, so eventually we reestablished communications, and yes, I have to go over with a handwritten letter. So I didn't say it to her because, but it's true. So asking a voter to bring ID to the voting booth is racist. Asking someone who wants to make a complaint against a state court, a state system, saying you can't send it by email, you can only handwrite it. You have to write it. Let's say you have to write it on your laptop or your computer. You have to have a printer. You have to buy an envelope. You have to buy a piece of paper, and you have to buy a stamp, and you have to go to the post box, or you have to go over there yourself and hand deliver it. And it's like, that's, so you have to go through all those steps. That's perfectly normal and acceptable. But asking someone to bring their ID to a voting booth is racist. There you go. That's the world we live in. And as I said in my letter to them, and I said in a number of communications to them, this is designed to make sure that people don't complain when you have to put them through all those steps. So I wrote the letter, and here's the letter I wrote. I don't think law is in my future, really. But anyway, I need help here. I need crowdsourcing. First of all, I wrote the letter. "I'm the husband of Ann McElhinney, and here's my address." And I said, who received a serious injury at the entrance to Santa Monica Courthouse on Friday, February the 3rd at approximately 2 p.m. Now, the smarter people out there among you may have noticed that I got the month wrong. So, yes, so I've now had to send an amended letter over saying, actually, it was September. So, in my defense, I wrote the letter the same day Ann was having her operation for her injury. I was under a little bit of stress. But here's what I've asked for. I'm writing to ask you that all video recordings for the area for the whole day are preserved and sent to us. I'm also writing and asking that you preserve all videos, documents, emails, work orders, diagrams, and all records pertaining to this area of the courthouse and its constructions, repair, and any remedial work that may have been carried out. I'm requesting you preserve a record of any complaints or lawsuits relating to falls or injuries suffered by anyone in the vicinity of the entrance to the Santa Monica Courthouse. I'm asking that you preserve all records relevant to the entrance and pathway up to it, and I'm asking that those records are sent to us. Now, I read this letter at dinner on Saturday night in the presence of a lawyer, And I have to say, it was like therapy to him. He never laughed as much in his life. He just thinks it's the funniest thing. And he's both amused at my optimism and amused at how much he believes Santa Monica, city of Santa Monica, is going to crush me like a cockroach. So he says they're going to keep you hanging on for 2 years and then at the last moment tell you that you don't actually own the land around the courthouse. He says you will be crushed like a cockroach. I am determined. I believe he's part of the lawyerly establishment, and this is part of a plot to make sure that everyone has to hire lawyers. So we will keep you informed, but I need help. So write in the comments in YouTube about what my next step should be. I mean, I don't even know how to file a lawsuit. What do you do? How do you write it? Where do you deliver it to? Who do you name in the lawsuit? So I need your help for that, and let's get some justice. There you go. Next on the show. Yes, so about 8 or 9 years ago, Anne was in Philadelphia, and a college student, a very angry young college student, asked her a question in a rather angry tone, and Anne responded and just tore her a new one. Really, it was a beautiful sight to watch. And somebody was recording it with a phone and put it up on the internet. Someone else saw that, put it on their YouTube channel. Actually, it was a guy here from Santa Monica who put it up on a YouTube channel. And it ended up getting several million views on YouTube. It looks like someone has now found that video and has made it into several TikTok videos, and it's really, really taken off. Like, Anne's getting messages from all over the planet about these TikTok videos. We got one in particular, and we got the lady's permission to read this out, and I'll tell you, it's an amazing message. So this lady has written, and I'm going to not read it all to protect this lady's privacy, and you'll see why. But here's what she wrote. I just watched you educated that girl on TikTok. I'm from a small Arkansas town, population 300, and I joined the military at 18. 19 years in now, and I know what you're preaching. In Afghanistan, the girls can't read or write. Let's put the video up and hear Anne hear the lady's hysteric demands of Anne, and then let's hear Anne's response.
You don't know anything. You are the least credible human being I've ever encountered.
You be my African.
I know that this is absurd.
I'm allowed an opinion.
I just can't help it.
I'm allowed an opinion.
But you're a goddamn idiot.
A goddamn idiot.
You are. And you're lying through your teeth.
Is this what you always say to
And
speakers?
how does it feel?
If you say 98% of something, there must be 100%. So somewhere there must be a list. There must be a list of all the scientists that exist. My first challenge to this lady is to give me the list of every scientist that exists in America, in the world. Because if they do, that's how you can use the word 98%. If there isn't a definitive list, there is no such thing as 98%. Number one, logic. Number two, science does not proceed by consensus. Science is not democratic. At one time in history, it was the consensus that the Earth was flat. Everyone believed in that. Everyone agreed on that. One man said that that was not true. One person is true. The idea, anyone who says to you, the majority agree with it, so it's true, is not a scientist. I don't know what they are, but they're not a scientist.
Okay, so this lady wrote to us. She's from a small Arkansas town. She's 19 years in the military. She says she's in Afghanistan. In Afghanistan, the girls can't read or write. And far worse. She says, where do you hear this? I was the team lead training Afghan soldiers, the first female they'd ever worked with. And this is the rules, I had to tell the lowest ranking male on my team to tell my interpreter what to say to the Afghan army guys. Now, can you imagine that? So she has to tell her lowest ranking soldier, and then he has to tell the interpreter, and then the interpreter will tell the soldiers. They should have went in there and said, you want to learn how to be a soldier? Then you take instructions from this woman. That's your first, that is how you'll learn to be a soldier, a proper soldier, that you will respect people for their knowledge and not exclude half the population. He says, those that have never known or seen their privilege stripped don't know what that's like. That girl that Anne was talking to doesn't know what a privilege it is to be a woman sitting at a college speaking her mind and bashing a country that gives her all. Thank you, Anne, for speaking up. You ever want to compare notes from things I've seen and experienced, let me know. I want to tear down the concepts of these type of people. Well, it's an amazing response we've got. Please keep those responses coming. We read them all. We love them all. And now let's go over to the 𝙤𝙤𝙘𝙀 interview. I recorded just before I came on air. So very interesting, very funny. And we'll hear the movie that he watches all the time. And, how tough it was to lose the election. We're joined now by 𝙤𝙤𝙘𝙀𝙀. So I know we have a national and international audience. So I just want to let people outside California to know who 𝙤𝙤𝙘𝙀𝙀 is, if you don't already know. Everyone probably knows him from the California recall election, where he was the leading Republican challenger to Mr. French Laundry himself, Governor Newsom. But Larry has been a fixture of the Southern California, of the Californian scene, actually, in the political landscape for decades. He's a radio host, commentator, an author. Perhaps his most remarkable achievement of all, he's an actual successful documentary filmmaker. And as a documentary filmmaker, I know how difficult it is to make successful documentaries. It's almost impossible, but Larry has actually made a successful one. So we've been on Larry's show a number of times talking about Gosnell, talking about our book and our movie, and it's very nice to turn the tables and to be interviewing the sage of South Central Los Angeles. Welcome to the show, Larry.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, as I say, Anne would have loved to have been here, but she's a little bit detained with a broken shoulder and a poor recovery. So you'll just have to struggle with the lesser part of the Ann Phelim Scoop. I hope that's okay.
That's fine with me.
Yeah, good. So welcome to the show, Larry. How are you feeling? Have you unwound and relaxed after what was a very hectic? The campaign was short, and I think that was deliberate. The other side made it short to try and stop people gaining ground. Have you unwound? How are you feeling like after?
It's interesting. I'm licking my wounds. I recall when Bob Dole, who ran for president in 1996, was defeated pretty badly. He contacted George McGovern, who ran in 1972 and was defeated pretty badly, and said to George McGovern, "When did this stop hurting?" And McGovern reportedly said, "I'll let you know if that ever happens." So it's difficult.
Yeah.
But for people outside the California to understand what happened is the recall election required two questions. The first question is, do you want to recall Governor Gavin Newsom? That required 50% of the voters plus one. And the second part of it was, whom do you want to replace him? Now, it took about 1.6 million signatures to trigger a recall. And a good quarter of them were people that voted for him just 2 years earlier. And the reason for the recall is his record as governor. It's just been flat out abysmal. There's no other way you can call it.
Yeah.
He shut down the state, he shut down the economy, shut down the schools while his own kids were enjoying in-person private education. You referred to him as Mr. French Laundry himself, and he was sitting at that restaurant, the French Laundry restaurant, while incurring, by the way, a $12,000 wine tab that we paid for. Now, and I feel I don't know that much about wines, but I do know that he probably wasn't drinking Mad Dog 2020. And anyway, he was sitting with the very people that drafted the mandates that required people to wear a mask and to engage in social distancing. They were not wearing masks. They were not engaging in social distancing. So it was the arrogance that I think was the trigger for all the people to sign the petition. But then his other record, crime is up dramatically. One of the reasons for that is that he released 20,000 convicted felons early. Yeah. And based upon historical data, the majority of them are likely to reoffend. He shut down the schools, as I mentioned. Now, before the pandemic, half of third graders in California government schools could not read at state levels of proficiency. Wow. And those levels are not high. Math scores are even worse, and they were denied a whole year of in-person education.
So what pushed you? What was the thing that really pushed you? Because it's a big decision to, and I think you probably had to leave your radio gig. You had to, put your whole life out on the line, your personal life as well as your political life. What was the thing that pushed you? I mean, it's a bit like people, all our friends are leaving California. And funny enough, it's not the big things. Of course, it's all the big things. And then it's one small thing flips them over the edge. Was there one small thing, or was it just accumulation for you?
It was accumulation. I was just saying, and the homelessness problem is up. And for the first time in our state's 170-year history, people are leaving. People are leaving. Businesses are leaving. And the rate at which businesses are leaving is twice the rate at which they left 2 years earlier.
Yeah.
And this year, more businesses have left than have left all of last year. It's the way he managed the fires. It's the fact that we're running out of water. We're engaging in what are called rolling brownouts because we haven't adequately invested in our energy grid. It's all of these things, Phelim. And I did not feel that the candidates, the bigger name candidates, including Caitlyn Jenner, would have been successful in the recall effort. So I'm not smart enough to have been strategic. I got in late, as did Arnold Schwarzenegger, by the way, the last time the governor was recalled in California back in 2003. I got in about the same time he did, only because I was looking at the candidates. I wasn't impressed. And the more I looked at the bill of particulars against this governor, the more I felt I had a moral and a patriotic and frankly, a spiritual obligation to do it. And you're right, I set aside my radio career. I was in almost 300 markets. I set aside my syndicated column. I was in about 80 different markets, and I lost a great deal of money to do this. And I did it not because I wanted to be famous, not even because I wanted to be a politician. I've never run for anything except for third grade class president. And I just did it because I felt I had an obligation to do it. So,
and the burning question is, did you win the third grade president?
I did. I won 3 rows out of 4. They're still cleaning up the blood. But honestly, on the second part of the ballot, which is who do you want to replace him? I destroyed my opposition. There's no other word for it. I've only been a politician for 7 weeks. One of the guys was a 2-term mayor of the second biggest city in California. He'd been running for a whole year, and he got almost single digits. I got almost 47% of the recall of the replacement part, which is about the same percentage that Arnold Schwarzenegger got in 2003.
So what a campaign it was to, I mean, first of all, they tried to exclude you from the ballot. And then when that didn't work, they literally threw the kitchen sink at you. I mean, I want to give people a flavor of, maybe you don't want to go over all this, but I suppose we have to give the people out there a flavor of what they threw at you. They found an ex-girlfriend who couldn't make up her mind whether you'd brandished a gun at her or not, but finally decided that you had. She gave one interview where she didn't mention it, and then gave another interview where she did, where this was the principal allegation, and then decided to run with that allegation. My personal favorite is that I think at least 2 reporters have characterized you as the face of white supremacy, the new face. And just a lot of people don't watch this on YouTube. They may listen to this on the podcast app, Larry. So I just want to let them know that Larry Elder is black. So we now have the black face of white supremacy. And that's not, they're accusing a black man of being the face of white supremacy. So how did it feel to be the black face of white supremacy, Larry, and have all this thrown at you?
Only in America can a black person be president and a white supremacist. Is this a great country or what? It was outrageous, but I knew it was going to happen. I've been talking about the media, and they lived down to my expectations. I've been talking about the media for 30 some odd years and knew it was going to happen. But I think even more egregious than that was what happened to me at a homeless encampment in an area of LA called Venice. A white woman wearing a gorilla mask threw an egg at me, and rather than cover this in a very serious way, as it would have been had, for example, Senator Barack Obama running for president had an egg thrown at him by a white woman wearing a gorilla mask, or Kamala Harris. Many of the major outlets ignored it, or in the case of the LA Times, the headline read something to the effect of "Elder involved in altercation in Venice." And the picture showed me literally hugging a supporter, but they froze it, so it looked as if I was slapping the supporter. It was a female, the daughter of one of my supporters. The supporter, by the way, was a Democrat, former state senator, Gloria Romero, who crossed party lines to endorse me because of the issue of school choice. It was her daughter, and I was embracing her, Phelim, but they froze it, so it looked as if I was slapping her. So the headline implied that the altercation was me slapping a woman, as opposed to a woman wearing a gorilla mask throwing an egg at me.
Unbelievable.
Now, when the woman in the photograph complained, the LA Times removed the photograph, but kept up the headline. That's pretty close to defamation. And nobody said the following words: Gavin Newsom has done a good job for the people of California, close quote. All they said was this was a Republican takeover, and by the way, a Republican takeover. And they've so conditioned Democrats to despise Republicans more than they despise the rise of the cost of living, the rise of homelessness, the fact that people are leaving California, and the quality of public education, and other things.
You're correct there, Larry. I mean, to me, what this showed was a lot of this show was the utter degradation of journalism. I mean, can you imagine the number of articles? Like there was a guy running for the governor of Virginia, and there was one of those spotters with a camera, and he called him a macaca with a camera, or some word, some phrase. And it turns out the guy was 1/4 Native American. The Washington Post ran 15 articles on that. Right? You, as a black man, were attacked by a white woman wearing a gorilla mask. Roseanne got completely cancelled. Roseanne Barr got completely cancelled for making a tweet about Valerie Jarrett at 3 a.m. at night. This election has shown that the journalism in this country can go much lower than you thought. And never fails to surprise by their terribleness.
I'll give you another example, Phelim. Near the end of the campaign, Rose McGowan, an actress who claims that Harvey Weinstein raped her, said in a press conference which we held that Gavin Newsom's wife called her on behalf of Harvey Weinstein's lawyer and said, in effect, what can we do to make this story go away? Now, this is a bombshell. An absolute bombshell, because the mayor, the governor purports to be woke and cares about female issues. And as you pointed out, there was an allegation made by a former friend of mine that I had engaged in domestic violence. And they ran for several days with headlines about this. Rose McGowan courageously comes forward and says, Gavin Newsom's wife called me 6 months before the Harvey Weinstein story blew up and said, in essence, how can I buy you off to make this story go away? And nobody cared. The headlines read something to the effect of allegations fly in waning days of campaign, or Rose McGowan stumps for Larry Elder. Now, during the press conference, she said, I'm supporting him for the recall, but she didn't stump for me. That's the only time she ever indicated she was supporting for me. But the headline read, Rose McGowan stumps for Elder, because they didn't want to cover this story.
Yes. Mean, by the way, speaking as a journalist, it's not the most ludicrous story on the planet, right? Because if you remember at that time, the time when the Weinstein thing was bubbling under, there were a number of people. So Lisa Bloom, Gloria Allred's daughter, wrote to Weinstein offering to represent him as the allegations were percolating. There were other people who intervened on his behalf at before the allegations really became public. So other prominent David Boies, the lawyer, the big Democrat lawyer, he represented Harvey Weinstein. So there's, and now he says he regrets it. But so there was this, the Democratic establishment did close ranks and did try and protect Harvey Weinstein from these allegations. So saying that Newsom's wife was part of that is not madness. It's not out of nowhere. It's part of a pattern.
That's right. And it was Boies on whose behalf Gavin Newsom's wife allegedly called Rose McGowan. And also, Gavin Newsom's brother-in-law is a partner at that very same law firm that David Boies runs. And so, of course, it wasn't ludicrous, and it should have been investigated, and it was not. The headline simply was Elder makes allegation, or Rose McGowan stumps for Elder, as opposed to Harvey Weinstein's wife accused of trying to hush the Harvey Weinstein story. That certainly would have been the case had my significant other called Rose McGowan and said, how can this go away? They would have gone crazy with that.
The campaign's over now. And is there a lesson to be learned from your campaign? Is there a lesson for Republicans? Is there a lesson for Democrats? Or is this just a one-off, because sometimes, there's no lessons to be learned, and it's a self-contained little organism. Tell me what you think. And maybe it's too close. Maybe you're too close to it at the moment.
No, I think there are lessons to be learned, but California is a strange creature. I mentioned there was a recall election in 2003 when the Democrat governor was recalled and Arnold Schwarzenegger replaced him. But the landscape, the electoral landscape, Phelim, is so very different. There are now 5% more registered Democrats. There's about 50% more registered independents, which tend to vote Democrat. And there's a third fewer registered Republicans. So the landscape is altogether different. There are 2/3 of Democrats running both chambers of our legislature in Sacramento. It's almost impossible for any Republican to win. A Republican has not won statewide in California in almost 20 years. So this was probably the only opportunity to do it because, again, had he been recalled, the winner would have been simply the person that got the highest number of votes. So it's possible I could have won with a total of maybe 25% of all the votes cast. And that's one of the reasons I decided to take a shot at it, because a straight up race, Republican versus Democrat, the odds are very, very daunting, but this is a little bit different. But they brought in all the heavy lumber. At one point, it looked as if it might even, the yes on recall might have even passed. And that's when they began spending all the money. That's when Obama cut a commercial. That's when Warren cut a commercial. Bernie Sanders cut a commercial. And this became a referendum, not on Gavin Newsom's record on crime, on homelessness, on the cost of living, on the fact that people are leaving, on the rolling brownouts. It kept showing over and over again a picture of Larry Elder next to Donald Trump with both our thumbs up. Therefore, it was a Trump takeover, and that's what worked.
Would you ever get off your arse, Barack Obama, and get over here? Like, I mean, such a lazy, I mean, he's so disconnected. He's so lazy. I mean, he's sitting over there counting the Netflix money and the Spotify money. But like, what would it really have hurt him to come over here and campaign? I mean, the president of the United States, Joe Biden, came here and campaigned for Gavin Newsom. And Barack Obama was sitting in Martha's Vineyard opening his birthday presents, cutting a campaign ad.
How about the irony of the first Black president trying to prevent the first Black governor of California? How about that irony? And one more thing, too. I've never, ever suggested anybody vote for me because I'm Black or against me because I'm Black. Besides, I feel that after the first Black president, everything else is pretty much anticlimactic. So I wasn't into the first this or first that. But if you want to play that game, there was a front page article about me in the New York Times, all negative, not once mentioning my race or mentioning that if I won, I would have been the first Black governor of California. And I'm fine with that, Phelim. But on the very same page, there was an article in the New York Times about, quote, the first female governor of New York, close quote, who only became governor because Cuomo resigned. So it was important that she was the first because she has a D at the end of her name, but I have an R at the end of my name, and I'm no longer Black.
That's great. It's a wonderful system. So listen, we're coming to kind of the end of our time now, and we always have two questions we ask our guests at the end of every interview, and it's a popular little segment, and people really like it. So, are you a cook? Are you a chef? And if so, do you have a recipe that everyone goes, "Oh, Larry, do your this"? And if so, what is it? And tell us about it.
My father ran a cafe in an area of LA, not too far from downtown. My father had an amazing recipe for pancakes, which I have inherited. So if you want some homemade pancakes, I have a formula that I put together that are just absolutely delicious.
Can you tell us a little about it, or is it a family secret?
It's not really. I think the secret is to put a teaspoon of cooking grease in it. It makes the pancakes not quite as sticky, and flip them over better, gives you a nice, beautiful tone brown color. They look gorgeous and taste great.
Maybe that could be your fifth act, opening a pancake shop in LA.
Maybe if I talked about it on the campaign trail, I would have carried a few more counties.
That's right. Yeah. Actually, that's right. In American politics, there seems to be a kind of a thing, I don't know, where you have to cry poverty and say you lived on pancakes for 3 years when you came off Ellis Island or whatever anyway. Enough about that. Also, we have the second question is a piece of art that means a lot to you and why. It can be a painting, a poem, a movie, a play, a piece of music, just something that moves you or has moved you and you want to tell people about it and why it has moved you.
Well, the movie, if I can do movies, my favorite movie by far is a movie called No Country for Old Men. I've seen it probably 15 times. It's a Coen Brothers film, I believe. And the reason I like it so much is because, Phelim, I always felt I was too hard on myself. Now, there's a scene in the film which isn't particularly the most important scene, and even people who've seen it, when I remind them of it, they don't even remember the scene. But Tommy Lee Jones was a lawman, and he's trying to catch Harvey Weinstein, who's just an insane, maniacal killer, and he just can't understand how to understand this guy. So he goes to an old sheriff who, by the way, had been shot and was in a wheelchair. And Tommy Lee Jones says to the sheriff, the man that shot you is about to be released. If he is released, what are you going to do about it? And the sheriff, who was injured and paralyzed because of this man, said, probably nothing. And Tommy Lee Jones was surprised about that. And he said, I'm surprised to hear you say that. And the sheriff said something to the effect of, when you try to get back what Ben took from you, more is going out the door all the time, close quote. And that just tells me whenever something goes bad, don't obsess over it. Don't try and get revenge. Try to go forward and try to make the best of it. Learn the lesson and go forward. And that kind of, to me, is what I took away from that film. But beyond that, it's just a wonderful film. It's a wonderful murder mystery, great acting. And I just love the film. I've probably seen it about 15 times. No Country for Old Men.
No, very funny. Regular listeners and viewers to this show might know that my least favorite movie directors of all time are the Coen brothers. Right. I despise everything they do. However, I must add, for the interest of clarity, I have not seen No Country for Old Men. So tonight I'm going to watch it. And I'm going to report.
I assure you, again, there are a lot of movies they make that I don't like, and I do think they're overrated. But this was superb. And one more thing about the film, and I hate to tell you this ahead of time because you're going to be looking for it. Absolutely no music in it. None. There's a tone in it. And there's a scene in a convenience store, a gas station convenience store, that is absolutely riveting. Riveting. No violence in that scene. Absolutely riveting. And you'll know what I mean when you see it.
Okay, well, that's great. Okay, I'm now going to watch it, and this could be the start of a love affair with the Coen brothers that I never saw coming.
Please, when you see it, you know how to reach me. Contact me and tell me what you think of the film.
Okay, yes. Deal. That's great. So actually, what's next for Larry Elder? Actually, besides running a pancake shop and becoming a film critic,
what's next is I did not feel better than 50-50 that we would win. So I was prepared to lose, but I did not think it was going to hurt as much. And I don't know what I'm going to do next. I don't know whether I'm going to run for a rematch, because his term ends late next year. Mm-hmm. And certainly going back to radio is what I'm expected to do and what most people expect me to do.
Yeah.
But I've now become a politician. I enjoyed it more than I thought I would, and I miss talk radio less than I thought I would. So I really do not know. I really don't know. I'm going to take a month. I'm probably going to go to Florida to the Keys and just kick back and think about it, and then come back with my batteries recharged.
Yeah. How did it hurt? Did it hurt personally, or?
It did hurt personally, because I felt the case to remove this man is overwhelming. I mean, he's done nothing at all right. As I mentioned, when all these people, these surrogates, campaigned for him, nobody said he did a good job. They all said the other guy is a Republican and he's bad. So I really felt the case was there to be made. I was surprised at the margin of defeat, although the margin is getting smaller and smaller because the votes are still being cast. And you feel personally rejected. And it does hurt. I didn't cry the election night. I didn't cry until the next day when I was saying goodbye to my campaign staff, and then it hit me, and I started bawling like a baby. I did not expect that. I really expected that if I lost, okay, I gave it a good shot. I tried my best, which I did. My campaign manager, who's pretty experienced, said he's never seen a campaigner work as hard as I did. I hit every interview. I did every rally. I did every fundraiser. It was absolutely grueling. I averaged about 3 or 4 hours of sleep. I lost my voice, which I understand happens to every campaigner if he campaigns hard, and I gained weight. So it was just hard.
Yeah, no, by the way, I can totally vouch for you campaigning hard. I mean, everybody I knew seemed to be doing a fundraiser for you, and or going to a fundraiser for you, and it was all over the place. So you were everywhere. You were there everywhere, man.
And I gained a pretty big national and statewide following.
We're a 501c3, and we're not allowed to endorse candidates. But let me tell you, we live in Venice, California, as you can see behind, and the homeless situation here is third world, and that's an insult to third world countries, because things wouldn't be as bad in third world countries, and change would have been very, very nice.
Gavin Newsom in 2004 ran for mayor of San Francisco and promised to clean up the homeless problem in that city in 10 years. Have you been to San Francisco recently? And at a campaign stop, I stayed at a hotel, and the manager was from Nairobi, Kenya. And he told me that around the corner from the hotel were a series of tents that reminded him of Nairobi. He said, this is why I left Nairobi. And I come to Hollywood, and it's worse than what I've ever seen at Nairobi. That's how bad it is. That's why, again, I thought the case for removing this man was pretty overwhelming, and I was surprised at the margin, at his margin of victory, at my margin of defeat.
That's California for you. That's why everyone I know is leaving as well. So we'll be the last two here, Larry.
You and me, we'll turn out the light.
Okay, well, thank you very much, Larry, and it's been a pleasure talking to you. And we're all looking forward to your next act, and hopefully you'll come on and tell us about that.
Well, as we say in radio, stay tuned.
Great, thanks. Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
It's funny, that's the thing people don't realize about elections, is that they take a personal toll, that people feel personally rejected, and and it does affect you personally. So anyway, on a lighter note, or on a somewhat note, have a look at this video of AOC, Alexandra Ocasio-Cortez, being waited on hand and foot, and her boyfriend, but they're not wearing any masks, and everyone else is, and that's the world order they want. Is this where the help wear the masks and they prance around? And actually, just like London Breed, just watch her. She's the San Francisco mayor. She has introduced a mask mandate indoors and decided to go out partying and ignore her own mask mandate. Don't listen to a word any of these people said. They're all a bunch of hypocrites. And talking of hypocrites, the Lancet has now decided that the letter they published from public health experts 18 months ago, poo-pooing and smearing anyone who suggested that the Chinese virus may have come from a man-made laboratory origin. They smeared people who suggested that, and now the Lancet is saying we should have actually been more open to it. And this is great line. They say scientists need to evaluate hypotheses on a rational basis and to weigh their likelihood based on facts and evidence, devoid of speculation concerning possible political impacts. In other words, we kept the story about the Chinese origins of it, the possible laboratory origins, we kept it quiet for political reasons. Scientists should also obey those rules when it comes to climate change and transgender. Also, I would suggest. Talking of China, watch the Evergrande company in China. It now looks like it has debts of 300 billion. It's going to collapse. When companies say they have debts of 300 billion, that generally means they have debts of $1 trillion. It also means that all these other companies are dependent upon them that are also going to collapse. It also means it could be a contagion of Chinese companies collapsing. And as China controls the world now, this could have serious, forget about systemic racism, this could have a serious financial effect on your pockets. So watch this space. I don't like it. And I've been suspicious of the Chinese economic miracle for a long time. And just be careful out there. Talking of being careful out there, like everyone else, we've been following the Gabby Petito tragedy. The girl who went off with her boyfriend on the van life, Brian Laundrie, and Mr. Laundrie has now gone missing. I don't want to say too much about it, but van life apparently is now very cool. It was made cooler by the movie Nomadland, where van life. Just to let you know, van life, by the way, is where you sell all your worldly possessions, or you never had any worldly possessions. You get into a van with no bathroom, and you live in that van and you travel around. It's kind of a nomad existence. It's not an RV, it's a van. It's similarly, it sort of pushed van life as this thing was going to end capitalism. Was the beginning of the end of capitalism. People weren't dependent upon houses or that. But at the same time, it was clear that the people who were pursuing the van life, many of them could not have survived if it wasn't for the fact that they were going around working in Amazon fulfillment centers. We have the most pampered generation and the most prosperous generation in the history of the Western world. And it's probably because of those two factors and maybe a few more. We also have a generation racked by mental illnesses. And we know that the girl, Gabby, and her fiance Brian, they told police they had mental health issues, and take two young people like that. What is the last thing you should do? I know the last thing you should do is squeeze them into a tiny van, a van with no bathroom, and then let them go across the country, trying to gather followers, doing something that involves no real talent except having a van. I don't know. It's to me, it was a recipe for disaster, and it looks like it's ended tragically. And the van life is cool. I don't know. I'm not sure van life is good for people, especially young people who feel they've been battered by a pandemic, they've been battered by the Great Recession, they've been battered by student debt, by the scam that universities are these days, and they think they'll never make it successfully. They've been battered by the boomer generation, bringing in so many rules and regulations that they can't start businesses, they can't buy houses because they're restricting buildings. So they really are screwed. And van life seems very attractive, but it just adds to the listlessness of their lives and could be a mental health quagmire. And so hopefully justice will be served for this girl, and her family will get some kind of closure that way. Just to wrap up, charcuterie. We did have a dinner this Saturday. I did most of the preparation. As you can see, it was very little cooking. I made my Spanish tortilla, which the recipe, you can find the recipe for on the recipe section. I've talked about it before. But charcuterie, yes. So what is charcuterie? It's a French term for they talk about it's kind of cooking, but it's preparing a meal of prepared meat products, mostly bacon, ham, sausages, that kind of thing. Charcuterie is normally pork, but nowadays you can have any kind of meat dishes, salami, pastrami, you name it. And cheese is big in the charcuterie. Olives, tomatoes. What's important, according to those who know, and I've been thoroughly briefed by Ann McElhinney on this, is layers, lots of different heights and meats everywhere, and cheeses and egg dishes all over. Colour is just very important. Olives, blackberries I see there, tomatoes. Very, very nice. I tell you, there wasn't much left at the end of it. So that is, we'll put some instructions up. So regarding the My Son Hunter movie, we're going to have very, 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 very interesting news very shortly. We're going to have a major cast announcement. I just can't talk about it now due to contractual issues and all that. But let me tell you, the movie is going to be great. We're going to have a great cast. We're working very hard on it every day. Not long till filming starts. I'm going to be going to Serbia for pre-production in early October. That's only weeks away. I know I've said this before, but this is the most important movie of the next year. I mean, we saw the Emmys there on Sunday. The ceremony was so woke, but the voters in the secrecy of the ballot booth voted for genuine equality. And even though it was as white as the whitest bread you've ever seen, because they produced quality, it was good stuff. The Crown, the Queen's Gambit, etc. So, in fact, Ted Lasso, you could almost argue, is almost a Christian series. Certainly, it's not very woke. So, we're producing this movie, My Son Hunter, to tell the truth about Hunter Biden, to tell the truth about the corruption of the Biden family. We're going to have a great cast, but we need your help. We're starting to spend serious money now. I'm going to Serbia. I'm going to be paying for locations, for sets, for actors, for cameramen. We're still several $100,000 short. The project budget is $2.5 million. We're now at almost $1.7 million. So we do need your help. If you haven't given already, please give. If you've given already, please think about giving again. Go to mysonhunter.com. Honestly, I know you guys listen out there. I know you want to help. So please go to mysonhunter.com and give what you can. And let's make a great movie and get the truth out there. I am going to go now and see to my wife. Please keep the messages, the warm wishes coming. And I'll talk to you next week. And hopefully Anne will join me as well. Thank you. Bye.